Ouch! What a familiar sight. The actual grille's been pushed in as well. You know, it doesn't come as any surprise that these taxis have their fair share of shunts. And believe me, we go through a lot of bumpers. But here's the problem I'm going to show you. It's not the actual cosmetic part of the bumper that's the problem. I'm just going to start the engine up. I'll give it a second. Okay. Right, we're running. Now here's the thing. What you need to do now is count to 20 seconds. All you can hear at the moment is the engine. There you go, did you hear that? That is the cooling fans that just come on, full blast. So here's the problem. Due to the fact this bumper's been hit, behind that front bumper there's what's called a grille shutter mechanism. It's like a load of slats, and there's a motor that turns these slats and opens and closes them. So if you can imagine, when it's stone cold first thing in the morning, all the slats are shut to stop the air coming through the radiator. When the engine warms up, the slats slowly open up. They're driven by a little motor. And when the slats open up fully, the air can go through the radiator. It's a way of heating the engine up quicker, I guess. Don't really need it in the UK, I don't think, and it'd have to be a bloody harsh winter to need this. But in some countries, I guess it's a pretty practical idea. But anyway, due to this accident, that grille shutter mechanism has been damaged. And no doubt what's happened is, where the motor connects onto the mechanism, something's broken. So the motor's either disconnected or it's spinning round and round, doing absolutely nothing. If the motor can't find its stop where it's supposed to stop, the ECU will detect that and it will put the fans on constantly as like a safety device, thinking it might be overheating. So it'll put the fans on, roaring away, and what will happen is, if it's left in that condition and you leave the fans running, they will burn out. They will eventually burn out. So something has to be done about it. So first step, I'm going to have to remove the front bumper. I guess the only plus to removing these bumpers, because they've been off that many bloody times to change headlight bulbs and that, most of the clips and screws are now missing. So it's less to take off. Got it. If the bumper on your car was a good one and you don't want to scratch it all up, that's the purpose of the foam pad. By the way, underneath here there's about 4 or 5 7mm screws you have to remove. I've already done that. Just so you know, be careful when you pull the bumper away that you don't damage these wires. There's a plug connector here for your temperature sensor that has to be disconnected, and also your actual motor, which is here for your grille shutter mechanism. There's a plug connector at the bottom here that also has to come off like so, and round the other side there's another multi-plug connector underneath the wheel arch there. You have to disconnect that. Right, for now, the bumper, which I no longer need, can go to one side. Oh dear, well there's our problem. The slat that's supposed to be here is the one that actually fits into the motor. And our motor is situated just there. So it's not connected to the slat whatsoever, so I presume the slat is falling down inside the back of these slats. So they should all sort of like be floppy doing nothing now. Not only that, look, this should be one complete housing, it's all bust. Oh, it's completely smashed this side. Oh my God. And also it should be held on here with these clips, which it's not doing anything really. I think the best course of action here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this outer casing. That'd probably be the best answer. In order to remove this whole assembly, down either side, like where the motor is, you'll see this piece here with like a popper. There's two of them. You just got to get the trim tool in there and get them pushed out like that. Underneath the bottom edge, where your lower radiator tray is, there'll be another piece of felt with 4 like plastic clips. You've got to get your trim tool in there once again and remove them clips. If I can show that, them there. Okay, we're getting there. On the top edge, there'll probably be some plastic clips holding this rubber flap in. If you get them clips out of the way and pull this flap down, there'll be a couple of 10mm bolts, one either side. So just undo them 2 10mm bolts. Then just down a little bit, you'll see another 10mm bolt, one either side, once again. So get them 10mm bolts out. There'll be a few more plastic clips on this top panel. Then just remove it. And obviously once that panel's out of the way, if you look right in the middle, you'll see a little screw. I think it's about a Torx 20. You need to undo that screw in order to get this little, let's get it moved. I'll show you what we've got to do in a minute. But I'll wind that out. You haven't got to take it all the way out, but sometimes it is best just to get it right out of the way. So, there we go. The whole idea now, the plastic bit at the back that it was holding on, you flick that out of the way. Just push it so it comes off altogether. Now we can actually withdraw the whole mechanism from the bottom. If you had the lower radiator tray removed, there's another one of them screws at the bottom, so you could do this from the bottom and then lift it out the top. It's whatever way you want to do it. But now I've got that one, these flaps will undo, but I've got that back piece off now, so now it should come out. So I'll give it a tug. I'll just pull this whole lot out, but you're supposed to draw it out down the bottom like that or out the top, depending which screw you took out. But the actual bar, plastic bar, that would have been holding on to one of these is completely come off anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. So the mystery is, where is the slat that the motor drives? That's our bar that holds all the slats together, so that's okay. But you remember at the start, we've got our motor here, and then we've got a gap here because there's a slat missing. I can't find the slat. It's not there. It's not in here at all. It's completely gone. So where the hell it is, I don't know. It just seems to have completely vanished. Oh, you never know what you're going to find behind a flipping front bumper, do you? That is gross. That's a dead bird. Oh, flipping heck. Anyway, I'm going to clean up all these leaves and get this all cleaned up, and then we'll try and order up ourselves a new mechanism and a new pack of bottom slats. Right, you kind of get the idea, don't you? But you've got all these, behind this thing here, you've got all these like clippers here that pop onto these slats, they press on, and then what happens is, this long piece will then clip on like that, where you've got the little lugs there. It will press on and clip on, then the screw at the top, you'll screw the screw in, which goes through there, and that will actually hold the whole thing together. So it'll end up like that. Then when the motor turns, it will move the whole slat mechanism up, open and close like that. These motors can get broken, especially where they screw on. So it's well worth having a good look at them. If the motor does need replacing, I shouldn't think it's exactly cheap to purchase a new one. So if this one's still in good condition, we'll reuse it. but there's your splines that the new slat will go into. There's only one slat that's going to fit into this motor to drive all the other ones. If you are replacing this whole housing, you'll have to replace this air temperature sensor or remove it from this old housing. You need to pull off the plug connector first, otherwise you won't get the sensor out. So once that little piece of wiring loom's out of the way, then you can get your trim tool and flick the actual sensor out. It's a little bit fiddly, but if I can get it, there, that is your outside air temperature sensor. All the parts are ordered, so all I can do is wait now. I've stripped the bumper of all the bits that are on it, all the grills. It's funny, you know, this has probably been repaired before, no doubt, but these bumpers, they're so flexible, it's like when they take a whack, you just don't know what damage they're going to do behind. So the bumper might not even look that bad, but if I go over to the car, you see the actual crash bar there has taken quite a whack. I don't know, I really don't know whether that was this accident or one before. It could have been one before for all I know. But I mean, the trouble with these bloody taxis, I mean, the drivers keep hitting them all the bloody time. Look at the lower radiator tray, well that's all bust. It needs a new tray as well. So anyway, I shall wait for all the parts to arrive and then start assembling it. Funnily enough, the very next job happened to be, well, it's not actually a clutch job, even though I am replacing the clutch anyway and the flywheel. Someone mentioned the other day, do you have many gearboxes on these Mark 5 Mondeos where the bearings fail? And I said, no we don't, I've only had one ever. Well, guess what? This driver pulls in, this is his gearbox. I got in the car, drove it across the yard, and it is whining. The gearbox is making a whining noise like you would not believe. And as soon as I dip the clutch, the noise has gone, even though I'm still rolling. So it's definitely the gearbox is knackered. Some bearing has gone inside that gearbox. So I'm going to strip that apart at some point and find out what the problem is. Luckily for me, I have a spare gearbox. This is the one I rebuilt a while back. It's been sitting in the stores. So it's just actually going back on now. I thought I'd show this quickly before I actually bolt it back to the engine. But there's the old flywheel teeth. I've just got to line it up and then we're done. Bang it on, bolt it all together, put some oil in it. And by the way, this particular gearbox that one of the bearings has failed in, I thought to myself before I even got it on the ramp, could it have lost its gearbox oil, got low on oil? No, it hadn't. It was absolutely full of oil. The moment I took one of the drive shafts out, the oil started flowing out. And I drained all the oil out and it looked a little bit on the grey side. So something's definitely gone seriously wrong inside that box. But that'll be for another day. There we go. One brand spanking new Grille shutter mechanism housing. And there's your Ford part number for that housing. There are two sets of slats you have to buy to fill this shutter mechanism up. This part number here is for the top set of slats, and this part number here is for your bottom set of slats. This is the one that has the splined bit in it that fits onto your motor. So what I'm going to do, I shall build the bottom half up first. You might notice in your new set of bottom slats, one of them is different to the rest. It's got this step bit on it. If you've got the old mechanism, you'll know where that goes because you can see from the old one. But it goes on the top, bottom, right hand side. And all you do with these slats is basically pop one side in and then you have to kind of like bend it like a bow to actually get it to fit into the other hole. But once it's in, that's it. Woo! And also there's another slat that's got like a little cutout in it just in the middle. That goes on the right hand side at the bottom again, but right at the bottom, it's the bottom slat. So I'll pop that in, give it a bit of a bend, and pop it in its hole. There. Right, well all I'll do now, I'll just pop the other ones in. It's quite straightforward, nice and simple. And that's one half done. On the left hand side, which is the motor side, there's one slat you'll notice is wider than all the others. It's quite a bit wider. So that one goes right at the very bottom. So I shall pop this one in. Yeah, come on. There we go. Now this bottom bit is all built up, apart from this one last slat that the motor goes onto. I shall fit this slat in, but here's the thing. Do not fit the motor whatever you do. If you fit the motor, you won't be able to turn them, and you probably are going to need to turn them all to actually get all the mechanism together properly. The top set of slats are pretty straightforward, but there is one here, the diameter is actually a bit thinner than all the rest. This one particular slat goes at this bottom bit here. So if you imagine this edge here is your bonnet line, so this thinner slat goes at the bottom edge like that. With these ones, once you've fitted the slats into either end, then this little bit in the middle, you actually got to press it in. It's pretty tough to push it in, but it clips in like that. This is the tricky part. Now you've got this piece here, the screw will be facing to the bottom, and you've got to literally put all these little clippers onto these bits here. I won't show this on video because it's a bit fiddly, if you know what I mean. You've got to try and line them all up, and once you get them all lined up, you clip them all on like that. So yeah, once that's clipped on, that's the hard work over. Now you can you can see how they all open and close nice and smoothly. Now you have to do the same for the bottom lot of slats. It's a little bit fiddly once again because you've got all independent slats and you've got to line them up with all these clippers and fix them all on. So I'll have a go. But I think they're about there. Come on. We're nearly in. There we go. We're done. Bingo. I'm now going to clip the bar that joins the top and bottom slats together. I'm just going to clip that onto the top set of slats, like so. But I'm not going to clip it onto the bottom bit. The reason for that is that this has got, your crash bar on your car has got to slide through here. Then I can clip this on. That's how you've got to fit it onto the car basically. So I'll leave this loose for the time being. But as things stand, this mechanism's just about ready to go on. I shall just pop this outside air temperature sensor in place before I forget it. And just clip your wiring loom back onto it. There. There we go. One shutter mechanism. Woo! All ready to go back on. I've decided to remove the lower radiator tray. In all honesty, it's going to make putting this grille shutter mechanism back on a whole lot easier. Okay then, so you see that bar there, I've got to slide it behind this crash bar. So you've got to be very gentle so you don't rip it off the top bit. But here we go. There. And once that's behind, then you can slot it into place. So you can get your hand up where the lagging is at the base. So you can get your hand on that, on the clip. And then you've basically got to push it on and clip it on. If I can get it, that's it. That's on. So now we've got the whole mechanism connected together. So see now, if I get my hand behind onto the mechanism, it's opening all the slats. There we go. So obviously now it's just a case of putting all your 10mm bolts back in, bolting this mechanism back up. These flaps here, get the clips and push them in. All the slats are in the closed position at the minute. I'm now going to fit the motor onto the splines. There we go. And I'll put our 2 Torx 20 screws in. And don't forget to pop your lagging back in underneath, because that does add quite a bit of support to this mechanism. And before I forget, the two little screws that go on your main bar that holds all the slats together, there's a little Torx 20 at the top and a Torx 20 at the bottom. I shall screw them up like that. You've got to screw that screw all the way in, and you'll do the same at the top. See that little screw there? You want to make sure that's screwed all the way down. That will hold the whole mechanism in place properly. That's it. Due to the fact I don't have the front bumper back yet, I've connected the wiring back up anyway, so now I can actually give it a try. So what should happen is when I start the engine up, these shutter mechanisms, they should open, then close. That will do their sweep so they know where their stop is. And then obviously as the engine warms up, they'll slowly start to open. So I'll start the engine up now. There, you see them all working? I'll just do that one more time. Woohoo! Excellent. At least that's working fine, and that's what they should be doing. When the engine's stone cold, you will start the engine up. Normally these will be closed, or whatever position they're in. They'll do a sweep, like the fully open position, then they'll fully close again. And that way the ECU will detect that the motor on this shutter mechanism has actually done its sweep and found its stops. And then as the engine warms up, these slats will slowly open up, ECU controlled obviously, in conjunction with that electronic thermostat. And obviously once the thermostat opens and the water flows through the radiator, these will find their way to the fully open position. That way the air's going through the radiator and cooling the engine properly. I guess these are a pretty good way of sort of like in very cold countries of like letting the engine warm up quickly without letting the air go through the radiator. But anyway, they're a pain sometimes when they go wrong, because what can happen is if that motor dies or something goes wrong, all these slats can stay in the fully closed position. So when the engine's hot, there's no air going through the radiator, it can't get through because the slats are all closed. So in a lot of cases, we'll sometimes take all these top slats right out, so at least we know the radiator is going to be cooled. They're not exactly cheap to replace all this mechanism, especially if you've got a bunch of taxis that keep getting smashed up. Anyway, at least this one's all back together and working properly. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching everybody. We'll see you all in the next one. Adios. Right then, there's just one thing left to do. Put this where it belongs, in the trash can. Right, let's get this done.
Can you help?
Not now, Monty, not now. I'm really busy.
Alright.
Friggin' yes! See ya!